Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. If you're tuning in for the first time, we are a Boston-based syndicated internet radio station with all the bells and whistles. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can be in Scotland or Ireland or California, and you can hear us whether you're in your car, whether you're in your home, at work, or using the apps and asking Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 radio. Well, we have a great show for you today. And just before that, I am going to mention that we are in our 5th year for the media partnership with the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. We usually promote 3 workshops, and they're all at a 20% discount because of our partnership. So check that out. Go on our site, Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7 radio.com. Well, Dr. Emmett Miller, who is one of our hosts, he's an MD, and he is actually a pioneer, just like Dr. Bernie Siegel, in the sense of groundbreaking work in mind-body medicine, mindfulness, visualization, and stress reduction. And he's may surprise us and join us this evening. So check him out on our site. Just put in Dr. Emmett Miller and all his information will come up. And that's how I met our guest, who is Jerri Sher. She is a 2-time Emmy award-winning filmmaker, a member of the Directors Guild since 1998. She has completed 22 film and television projects. Jerri wrote, directed, and produced Quiet Explosions, Healing the Brain, a documentary feature about traumatic brain injury and PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome, and with veterans, athletes, and civilians. I have seen that particular documentary, and it is amazing what the brain is all about. And check it out and leave a review. And we'll be giving links out a little later. And then she also has numerous awards everywhere. Then she has a short film, Step Up. And that particular project yielded 2 Emmys. So she's going to come into the show. Welcome to the show, Jerri.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's such an honor to have you, and I get little goosebumps just presenting you. So you are a beautiful soul. I already know that. And for everyone that's out there listening for local, Jerri is originally from Fall River, and that's another thing that I thought, wow, there's a connection there. So before we get into all your awards and everything, I'd love to have you explain or let us know what happened that drew you to become a director and a filmmaker. Was it something that happened in your childhood? Was it later in life? How did it all happen?
It was actually very mysterious. I was a Bachelor of Fine Arts, major and an art professor in my first career. I always loved the visual arts. And my second career brought me into business, where I was in the trucking industry for 20 years. And needless to know that I was learning to become a producer the whole time, and working with the Teamsters in trucking and doing budgets just like you do in a big movie. But I had no idea that the world was getting me ready to be a director, producer, and making movies that would influence the world in a positive way. And I just wrote a screenplay one day out of the blue. So I think somehow I was chosen to do this work, and I'm not exactly sure why, but here I am making movies that will influence the world and help people to benefit their lives psychologically, physically, and emotionally.
Wow. Now we are going to be talking about, as the title, Emmy-winning director Jerri Sher and Dr. Emmett Miller present the 12-part healing series, Live Life. So tell us, how did you connect with Dr. Miller?
I was up at Esalen after I had finished a big movie, and I was quite stressed out and exhausted. So I signed up for his seminar, which was having fun with guided imagery. And I had no idea what it was. But I went up there and I'm listening to him. He's doing the seminar. I'm sitting in a big circle of 30 people, and he's sitting right next to me on my right. And as I was listening and learning about his methods, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because I realized that you can actually change the cells in your body by your thoughts. And I figured this is something the whole world needs to know. So I gave him my card and I told him that I was fascinated with his mind-body science and guided imagery, and I would love to talk to him about a documentary feature. So of course, you give someone your card and then you leave the seminar and go home, and you never know if you're going to hear from someone. But a few days later, he did call me, and he said he had looked at all my work and he wanted to speak with me about a project. He had been looking his whole life for the right person to tell his story. So we got together many times. He looked at everything I had done, and it was a big step for him, because he had to open up his patients and talk to them and see if they would be willing to talk to me. And they were. So we started the project as a documentary feature with the first boy, Will, which is one of our episodes, but it mushroomed and it got so big that I actually realized I had a series on my hands. It took 10 years to finish this 12-part series, Deborah.
Right. And I can understand that, because when you're working with God's universe, what happens is things are placed, and I'm sure you've experienced it along the way, where things are just presented to you. And then it's a matter of whether you want to go on that path, that direction, what you're going to do with it, the choices you make, all of that. Do you feel that, as the years have gone by, have you felt that energy where you feel you're guided?
Absolutely. It's so mind-boggling to me that I'm given this information, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a healer, I'm not a psychologist, and yet I have been chosen to tell some very, very important stories that are going to heal people, that are going to help people and make their lives better. When I learned about Will, the little boy 9 years old with a brain tumor, his parents were told he'd be dead in less than a year. And I followed this story, and I followed him for 10 years with all of his different modalities, because the parents refused to give him radiation or chemo. And he, again, is doing fabulous. I followed him through college, and now he's, working in the field of teaching. It's pretty miraculous. And he worked with Dr. Miller in guided imagery. And his episode, which was our pilot, is episode number 3 in Live Life. It's pretty amazing. And then, the more things that were unraveled, I realized that God had chosen me to tell these stories.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And let's talk about the documentary with Will. I was just that's the one that has moved me the most. And what's fascinating to me is that the parents didn't get in trouble for making the decision of not going to do the chemo, because it depends on the state that you live in, or if the doctor or someone got a hold of the authorities. So did they just have a solid constitution that they were going to do this and he was going to heal and that was it?
Well, it was the mother who really was the driving force, because she absolutely was the one that said, we are not going to give him chemo radiation. And I was really afraid about the authorities. I thought they could lose the child. God knows what can happen.
Yes.
What could happen to me about telling this story. But the father is a cardiologist. He is from the medical institution and industry. So it was very telling that he went along with his wife, and they threw out all the food in the house. They went strictly vegan, organic for everyone. I went up there and spent a lot of time with the family, eating with them and sitting around their table and getting to know them before I ever brought any cameras in. Mm-hmm. And I saw that they had completely changed their lives. You know, they gave him acupuncture. They brought him to John of God in Brazil. They worked with Dr. Miller constantly. They just really did everything in their power to make sure their son lived, and he is living well.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, because at the end there's a little excerpt at the end which I love. I love that follow-up. And I'm sure you had something to do with that. You know, when you see a movie or a documentary, and you always kind of wonder, well, where are they now? So I love that you did that. So with the with the diet, and it isn't just the diet, it was visualization. It was, really training the mind. And that's what he talks about, and what many of us come to find out, that whatever our thoughts are, we're creating our reality. So in this situation, he focused on the acupuncture, all these different pieces, the visualization, and a strict diet. And the diet was just real food, away from meats, it was all organic. And so I wonder, does he stay true to visualization and the diet? Do you know?
Yes, I keep in touch with him all the time, and absolutely, he stays in touch with everything and everybody and every single modality. He also went to cranial sacral therapy, and they searched the most prominent man in the universe, which is Dr. Upledger in Florida, and they took him to the cranial sacral therapy institute in Florida. And he had that kind of therapy as well. But he does stay true to all of the modalities. He does not deviate whatsoever with anything. The food, drinking his chai tea, as you saw in the movie. And of course I have to do with the ending of the movie, because I have to do with every single frame of the movie. The writing of it, the music, the visualization, the animation, anything that goes into the writing of it is what I do. And I felt it's important to see what happens to the person at the end.
Yes, I think that is very important. Absolutely. And then the other one that I watched was Lakshmi. Yeah, okay. And she had quite a tumultuous childhood and was able to move from that, and now teaches yoga and many other things to people. So again, she went through and that was another one that Dr. Emmett Miller was involved in, teaching her the different modalities and the guided imagery, so that she could move away from being a victim into actually teaching and helping others. And don't you think that, I always find that those of us that have had really tumultuous childhood, we end up wanting, not everyone, but there's many of us that want to make a difference. We want to help others. We want to somehow, some way, fill the void of what they have, what people are experiencing, with love and understanding, and saying you can do it too.
Yes, and absolutely, you're right, because every single one of these 12 people wanted to give back to someone else and to society. It's sort of like the pay it forward, philosophy. And Lakshmi was so amazing. She invented chair yoga for the disabled. And she now teaches it all over the country, and she certifies people. It was such a brilliant thing to give to people who couldn't, get out of a chair. So
Right.
when I saw that all of these 12 people from different walks of life, different ethnicities and so on, they all wanted to give back, and then they are giving back. And I think I see Dr. Miller coming on here.
Yeah, so welcome. I wondered if I'm so glad that you joined us. And we were talking about, Jerri is sharing her experience with doing the live life documentaries, and we were just talking about the couple that I have seen, and one of the things, so welcome, Dr. Miller, Dr. Emmett Miller, which we had talked about earlier when coming in, that he has his own show, Healing Times Radio, on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, and he and Jerri actually connected way back when he was presenting a workshop or something to that effect. But we have a question for you, Dr. Emmett.
Okay.
And Jerri would love to know why or what happened with you and your thinking and your heart to have trust and faith in Jerri to tell her your story and allow her to present it globally.
Well, the truth is that I had my story and my work and what I had been involved in for 30 or 35 years is something that is extraordinary and is what many, many, many people in our culture need. And the thinking and the concepts that have emerged for me as I explored would be so valuable for our world to have, because the same problems that we have as individuals in our culture, we call them diseases and we treat the symptoms, but most of them are, at least in part, due to the fact that we are out of balance inside. And of course, we know we're out of balance in exercise because 60% of us are overweight, and we know we're out of balance in terms of sleep because hardly anybody's getting the recommended amount of sleep. And we're out of balance in terms of exercise, and we talk about we should try to change these for people, and that's true, they should. But they all rest on a fundamental way that we're out of balance, and that is we're out of balance in terms of how we're operating our brains. And our lives, our choices, our emotions are being controlled to a very large degree by an ancient part of the brain, what's called the limbic system. It's in the paleocortex, an old part of the brain. It's the same kind of brain we share with all mammals. And it's the part of the brain that tells us when we're in an emergency situation in which it's life or death, and we're going to be dead within the next 10 seconds if we don't react. So we call it stress in common parlance, but most people have no idea how extremely central stress is. So I've been working miracles with individuals constantly now for the last 50 years. And my dream has been to get the information out to people. And it's very difficult to do because money is what gets information out to people.
Right.
If you find someone who has $10 or $20 million to invest, then you can do a little application and put it online, like Relax Me, and 500,000 people listen to it because you can reach them and they learn to relax a little bit. But that's not the end of it. There's much more that people need to know. And one of my ways of trying to teach that was to, for instance, show up at Esalen Institute, where they provided me with groups of 20 to 40 or 50 people at a time I do that a few times a year, but no way to reach out to the people and families and communities and countries that are suffering right now. And so when Jerri came along and I saw her excitement about what she could see in my work, and I said, this is the best chance I've ever had to maybe hook up. Maybe we can make a film that tens of millions of people will see. And when enough people begin to realize, I mean, really, and what it comes down to is, and I mean this in the deepest and most profound way, the healing power of love, real love, not superficial hearts and candies love. But when you really understand that the essence of our individual lives, the essence of life itself is love. And
Absolutely.
love in a very deep way. Before there was life on the earth, there were lots of chemical reactions going on, but no self-sustaining chemical reactions. And they were all pretty much what we call bipolar reactions, ionic reactions, like where one atom takes an electron from another atom, and then that atom becomes negative and the other one becomes positive, and then they sail off in different directions. That's polarization. Then along came the carbon atom and did a very amazing thing. It said, we don't have to take electrons from each other, we can share. And the notion of working together and sharing began. And out of that grew protein molecules, and out of that grew DNA molecules, and out of that grew these huge molecules that we use for our lives that contain hundreds of different atoms. You can't do that with polarized atoms. In the same way, the world is going to collapse if we think the way out of this is that our team beats up the other team. We're not going to make it. So I call it a fundamental urge to merge, which is really love.
I like
the
that.
wanting to connect, and so we have people who are feeling tense with each other, who are arguing. In politics, they're calling each other names and they're fomenting rebellions, and that's not the way to get there. What
That's
Gandhi
right.
said, Gandhi said, the ally that you must always seek is the part of your adversary that knows what's right. The ally you must always seek is the part of your adversary that knows what is right. That means that there's something in you, there's something beautiful in you. There's something in you that knows the value of love. There's something in you that's aching to feel fully in love with the world and with yourself. And if I can find that part of you, and that's the part that I'm speaking to. When a patient comes to me, I know that patient has that loving part within. They're frightened of their father, they're frightened of their wife, they're frightened of the economic situation, they're frightened of global warming. And when I sit with them, I cut through all of that to the point that, inside there's something beautiful. And I'm going to connect with you at that level and give you the part of you that knows that you are loved. I'm going to give you the tools, the mind tools, how to use your mind, how to use deep relaxation, how to use guided imagery, in effect, to reprogram your brain so that your life becomes built around love rather than fear or anxiety or competition or jealousy or envy or lust.
Beautifully said, Dr. Emmett. If you can hold that now, we need to take our first break. So everyone stay with us. We'll be back more with Emmy-winning director Jerri Sher and Dr. Emmett Miller.
Experience different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing.
The Reconnective Healing Spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Looking for your own personal roadmap to understanding the universe and your place in it? Learn to use astrology to understand yourself, friends, family, and current events, and improve your life in the process with author and astrologer Gul Sasan. Mention discount code DREAM for 20% off when you register for Learn to Read Your Astrology Chart at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, October 14th to the 16th. Learn more at eomega.org.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. You're listening to Love by Intuition. It is Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll go on our site. It's Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7 radio.com to learn all about the host, every radio host, podcast, whatever you want to call it these days. They're here with their show and their podcast to make a difference in the world and learn more about them. Some of them are MDs, a lot of PhDs, most of them are authors. Some of them do not have anything but modalities, and yet they're very, very powerful. And it's all about healing, believing that we can heal our bodies. And with a little help, that's how it heals. It needs help. It needs us to work with our bodies, not against our bodies. I want to give out the links for Jerri Sher. You can get in touch with her. Her site is Jerri Sher. It's JERRI, S as in Sam, HER.com. And then with Dr. Miller, it's simply Doctor, but it's DR. Not doctor spelled out, it's drmiller.com. And I want to talk about, I just want to touch on with Dr. Miller. we were talking, Jerry and I were talking about Matt. I'm sorry. It's Matt, right?
No, Will.
Will. I'm sorry. Will, that has had such a phenomenal experience of living instead of dying with the brain tumor. And I want to ask you, do you believe that it's all the different pieces? It's not just one. It's not just diet. It's not just one modality. It's really working with all of it together. And then the visualization, the guided imagery really is the most powerful because of what our minds are telling our body. But yet each piece plays a huge part in our complete healing.
Yes, that's exactly right. In a way, to use a sort of a horrible example, it's a bit like an army. Which one can you do without? Can you do without the foot soldier? Can you do without the general? Can you do without the colonel who tells the foot soldier what the general wants? You need them all. They all have their part to play. And these are many parts. There's diet, and there's exercise, and there's sleep, and there's relationships, and there's being honest with people, and there's being honest with yourself, and there's prayer, and there's meditation, there's stress management, on and on and on. There's so many pieces of it. But in order for those pieces to work in harmony, you need to go to the higher level of the brain. If you want to plan out, let's say, an operation for the army, you can't go to the foot soldier because all he sees is the sides of the trench that he's in. You have to go to the general who's up on top of the hill, who can look at everything that's happening and consult the past and consult great teachers and envision the future and play out the scenario in his head. In order to do that for the human being, it requires that you relax, come into the moment. Few people ever even touch the present moment. They're so busy worrying about yesterday and tomorrow. But if you can be silent, quiet, come into the moment, deep relaxation, prayer, meditation, autogenic training, there's many ways to come into the moment. And when you're in the moment, then it's possible for the higher levels of your brain to operate. And I mentioned stress before, and I have to say this because so many people don't understand it. When you are having negative emotions, whether it's jealousy or anger or fear or rage or anxiety, whatever, then you are in a stressed state. And the chemicals that are being put into your bloodstream are busy dissolving the organs of your body. In addition, your monkey mind turns off the higher parts of your brain. You cannot be creative. You cannot analyze. You cannot make wise decisions. You don't have access to your wisdom. And that's why somebody will get really, really angry and throw their expensive cell phone up against the wall and break it. And 2 seconds later, they go, why did I do that? Because you were not in touch with your higher mind, or when you take that extra drink of alcohol, or when you decide to cheat on your spouse. When you make those decisions that screw up your life, you are not in your higher brain. You are operating in a state of stress. And so when you reduce the stress, come into the moment, into deep prayer or relaxation, to where you know that you're safe. And if you have a spiritual sense about you, that you know that God has everything taken care of, you can sit back and relax. And in that moment, then you can contact the higher levels of your brain, because the stress reaction shuts off your higher brain. Because if you really are being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, You don't want to be entranced by how beautiful the color blue eyes that he has. Or you don't want to be thinking about, oh, I should have built a fence, or maybe no. So it shuts off the creative part of your mind. And that's why doing prayer, meditation, and imagery puts you in touch with that part of your mind, because that's the only part of your mind that can do imagery. Your monkey mind lives in the eternal present. And if you had a drunken father who yelled at you, well, then you will be fearful for the rest of your life of anybody yelling at you. Either that, or maybe you shoot them or something like that. But you want to be healed, then you need to heal the part of you that was damaged before. And that can only be done when you reach the higher part of the mind. So that higher part of the mind, the prefrontal cortex, your higher mind, is the key. And that's what you reach through deep relaxation and prayer and imagery.
I love that, Dr. Emmett. You're so wise, and it's so real. It's just that we have to put it into action, and that's a choice.
Right. That's right.
And that's a choice with the human. So thank you. Well, I'd like to go over to Jerri. And Jerri, let's talk about the quiet explosions that healing the brain. This documentary can be found on Amazon, and you can listen to it. It's very, I believe it's $9.99. You can also rent it for less. But the most important thing is, after you view it, please do a review right there on Amazon with all the products, or not all the products, but all the documentaries and everything that Jerri has created. So Jerri, how did that all come about? How did you get connected to talking about and elevating TBI and PTSD?
Well, I always feel that somehow the right projects come to me, just like the same way I met Emmett. A woman who I babysat for in Fall River, Mass. when I was a teenager, growing up, 16 years old, earning extra money. She became a book editor, and she was up in Maine, and I guess she had been following my career my whole life. I had no idea. And she contacted me through an email and said that she had just finished a book on a Green Beret, and it was the most astounding story, and I had to make the movie of it. And she knew all about my Emmys and Live Life, and she wanted me to read this book and said it was the best thing. Well, of course, a lot of people contact me and tell me they have the best things in sliced bread, and it isn't always the case. So I said, well, send me the galleys. And, this is before the book was even published. And I read the galleys, and I was very taken with this Green Beret and the fact that he had healed. But I was even more taken with the neuroendocrinologist who came up with the theory of how to heal him. And I said, my God, this has to get out to the world. Why doesn't everybody in the world know about this? It was the same situation when I found Dr. Miller, and people didn't know about guided imagery. I wanted to share this with the world. And so I met with this Green Beret, Andrew Marr, and he saw my work, and he told me that I had the rights to the book, but I told him I would only do it under one condition. It had to be 1/3 military, 1/3 athletes, and 1/3 civilians, because PTSD and TBI affected millions and millions of people worldwide.
That's right.
He said, absolutely. And the only reason I could make that movie, and the only reason I could make all these subjects with Live Life, is because I don't allow any negativity into my brain ever. I don't read any newspapers. I don't watch any news on television. In order for me to be totally creative, I have to be positive at all times. And that's why I think I was the one chosen to give these stories to the world.
I would agree with that. So all these different pieces, like, can you take a couple minutes and describe what it's like? You meet with someone, you decide to go forward, and then you're trying to gather the pieces that come together for a movie. What do you find the most exciting part of it?
Well, the most exciting part are the people who tell the stories, because usually I meet some amazing, fascinating people. Not only the healers, but also the victims when they're victims originally until they become healed. But, the hardest part is raising the money. That's always the most difficult. But once we get that solved and squared away, the most exciting thing is finding a new thread. It's like I'm weaving a tapestry. And it's like when Dr. Emmett Miller tells me about Dr. Candace Pert or Dr. Amen, and then Dr. Amen isn't in Live Life, but then he ends up being one of the main people in Quiet Explosions. It's like,
Yes.
all these threads are in my tapestry.
Yes, beautifully said. So, and then from there, well, let's take our break if we may, and then we'll come back. I'd like to hear about the short film Step Up, because that's the one with the Emmys, the 2 Emmys that you received there, and how that all came about. And then, so we're going to take our break. Everyone, go to these websites, Jerri Sher.com, JERRI. S as in Sam, HER. Go to Amazon, just put in Quiet Explosions and it will come up. And then the other ones, the Live Life series that Dr. Emmett Miller is in, and a couple other excellent, phenomenal people. Go just put in Live Life series in Amazon and those will come up and you can view those at your leisure. There's just so much here that you can take in that inspires you, that motivates you, and makes you realize to take those few minutes and focus on the present moment. Because when you're in that present moment of whatever you're doing that's when all the glory, all the juice of what you can create comes in when you're in that quiet time of your brain. So we'll be back in a moment.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times best-selling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. Sit and read in the garden, explore the woodland trails, or try a daily yoga or meditation class. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 800-944-1001.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. And Jerri, I wanted to ask you how you felt. Did you get goosebumps? Did it feel surreal when you received those Emmys?
Yes, it was like an out-of-body experience, honestly. You feel like you're floating. You feel like angels are carrying you. It is pretty surreal. And it takes weeks to come down and feel normal again. But it's just that all the hard work pays off. All the years and years and years of blood, sweat, and tears of, well, like I tell people when I'm working on a project, I eat, sleep, and drink it. You know, I'm dreaming about these people in my dreams. And the only way to produce something really effective and compelling is to do that, is to eat, drink, and sleep it. And that's what I do. And when I won the Emmys, it was wonderful.
Yeah, and validation that what you're doing to make a difference in the world is actually a reality.
Yes, and I really want to make a difference in the world, and that's what I'm all about. And that's why when Dr. Miller said he wanted his work to be global, you know, Live Life is in German, Live Life is in Spanish, it's in the UK, it's all over the world, and you can watch it on Amazon. And it was put out there so that the whole world could experience it. If people go to jerrisher.com, they can watch the 5-minute short that I made with Dr. Miller and his son in it, which is called Live Life A to Z. And it's just a 5-minute quick piece to just give people an uplift every single day. They can watch it in the morning when they wake up and have a better day.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's talk a little bit. Well, I wanted to make sure people knew that there are 12 healing pieces to the series Live Life, correct?
Yes, and each one is about 20, 25 minutes. And if somebody is on a real budget and they want to just watch it for 99 cents, you just go to other options and you can watch it in SD instead of HD. So we tried to make it, available for everyone and anyone.
Very good. So let's just talk a little bit about Step Up. And how that all, what's the theme on there and how that came to be. I always like to know all the pieces, how they came together. And obviously we can't do that in an hour, but tell us a little bit.
Well, Directors Guild of America, where I'm a member, came to me and asked me to work on this project about the homeless people in Santa Monica, and one of which was given a home by Step Up, charity who gives them homes. And it's very
Let me
hard
check, see how she is.
to make
they told me one person can be with her, so they said one person can be with her, so they said I could go in. So if you're
it's harder to make than an hour.
Let me just see.
But that was the challenge. I had to make a 5-minute movie, and then there were 2 other charities, 5 minutes, and it was called Santa Monica Cares. And I selected this guy, Leroy, who had been homeless for 16 years. And he had turned his life around once Step Up gave him a place to live, and he didn't have to be on the streets. And it's pretty fascinating because 7 years ago, he was teaching workouts and how to, exercise. And now he's at college, a 4-year college degree in mathematics. So I'm doing a follow-up movie with him, which will be like a 30-minute piece instead of a 5-minute piece. But it's pretty exciting that all of my works have to have a positive ending for me.
Yeah. Well, you know why? Because it helps people to know that the there's possibilities that they can believe. For some reason, the human mind doesn't believe, maybe in spurts, but to keep it believing is a hard one. So it just reinforces what we all know, is to stay in that present moment and that energy, and that we can make a difference, just like Step Up and all that you have done. I'd like to just ask you, is there anything that you want the listeners to know that we haven't covered yet, Jerri?
Well, I'm just thrilled to have more people watch Live Life, 1 or 2 episodes or however many you wish, and write a little review, write a little, even if it's a rating. Amazon goes by logarithms, believe it or not. So we just have to keep having more people watch, more people put a little note on there, even if it's 2 sentences or 2 words. Okay, I would just be so grateful for spreading the word about Live Life and having people write reviews or put a rating on, because the more people that see it, the more people that we will give hope to, that they also can have a happier, better life and have more positivity in their lives.
Absolutely. Now, what's happening with you now, and what do you dream of for the future?
Well, believe it or not, I just wrote a musical, and it just sort of poured out of me. And I like I say, when God gives me these things to give to the world, I just go with it. So I just write it, and it comes and it flows, and hopefully that'll be on the stage soon.
Wow. So where are you with that? Is it completed and now you're looking to put it on stage, or you're in the midst of it? I mean, what can you tell us what we can look for?
Yes, just completed, and now we are looking to have a reading, me and my partner. It is a very fascinating therapeutic comedy about a psychiatrist who ends up in the homeless community on the streets treating the homeless, because she's homeless.
Emmett, are you still with us? Do you have some closing thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, Jerri, sure is good to hear your voice again. I was really hoping we're going to do a video here so I could see you. So keep up the good work and keep letting your heart guide you as you have been doing. Give my best to Alan and tell him that I'm terrific. And for my closing thoughts is that I want to tell everybody they should go and watch Live Life. If they come to drmiller.com, they can sign up for my newsletter, and you'll have other opportunities to see Live Life as well as the regular programs that I do. Tremendous amount of what I do is free because I want people to learn this. And I also have specific programs given whatever disease you may have. So that's a way that you can follow up. So keep going deeper into your heart and find the love that created you. Realize that it's surrounding you always, and let it heal through you so that you're healing others. And a lot of healing takes place when you allow the healing to come through you. So spread it around everywhere you go. That's it.
Perfectly said, Dr. Miller.
Yeah.
Perfectly said.
And you too, Deborah, you're teaching the same thing that I am. You're just on a different channel. But
yes.
Keep it up. You got it. You got it, girl.
I will. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you. And for Jerri, closing thoughts on you?
Well, I just feel that I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Miller. This all started when I met him, and the path just keeps getting better and better and better for me and all the people I've influenced and tried to help. So I feel like a little bit of him wore off on me and got into my brain. And I read every single thing that he ever wrote, and it was like, you can't imagine what I learned from this man. And my biggest job was to pare it down so people could understand it.
Yes.
Hopefully I've done that.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you for coming together and sharing this information for everyone to hear. And for those out there listening, listen to the show more than once, because it's like a book when you read it again. So when you listen to it again, you'll pull something else, something wisdom, something will touch your heart that you can put into your everyday life, and pass it on to families and friends, and tune in to all our shows Monday through Friday, actually Monday through Saturday, our talk radio shows, and check out our site and go on JerriSher.com, JerriSher.com, and also Dr. Miller, which is real easy, drmiller.com. Until we come together in love, and I'm sending it out in a beautiful vibration to everyone listening today and beyond. Au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.